So the first stage of the system involves recognizing your problem and your need for help, as well as developing hope and trust in a system. And once you begin to experience withdrawals and you begin learning how to manage these systems, you're then ready to move on to stage two. Now, stage two is where you complete the process of cognitively and emotionally processing the situations that brought you into this system. So perhaps you were struggling with something like porn-induced erectile dysfunction. This is an erectile dysfunction that is brought about by compulsively viewing pornography, where you are unable to have or maintain an erection without viewing or fantasizing about pornography. Throughout the rest of these sessions, I'll be referring to porn-induced erectile dysfunction as PIED. So maybe you were struggling with that and it affected your intimacy with your partner. Or perhaps there was some porn-induced infidelity and your relationship has reached a crisis point. Maybe you spent a lot of money, maybe you lost something important to you, or you will let go of your job due to your out-of-control sexual behavior. Now, whatever the crisis is, stage two is where we finish processing it. We work through the stressors that brought you here and we get you to a place where you can start logically going through the program. So the keys to success for this stage are very much similar to stage one. There are a few crucial goals that you have to accomplish to be successful in stage two. The first one is you have to keep accepting your behavior. At stage two, this is really where denial kicks in. At stage one, you did accept that you have this behavior, but as you start putting in the work at stage two, that's when you begin to experience denial. You'll start hearing yourself say things like, do I really need to do this? Oh my God, this is going to take work. I have to rearrange my schedule to sit down and watch this video or to visit with this therapist or to speak with these mentors. That's why you have to come back to accepting your behavior. The second criteria is accepting that you can actually create and live a new life. And the final one is learning the coping skills and strategies that you would use instead of pornography, masturbation, or any out-of-control sexual behavior you might be struggling in. So let's take a little bit more of an in-depth look into what each of these goals are. The first one is accepting your behavior. And this involves letting go of a lot of the old ideas that you might have about pornography addiction and the recovery process, as well as accepting the fact that you have this problem. Maybe you picked up these beliefs from a 12-step group, or you tried to work through some issues with a therapist. There are other methods to recovery out there, but we have a very specific way of approaching it with our clients. For example, one of the things that you need to let go of is the habit of counting days, and it's something a lot of men do. However, I don't feel it's helpful for several reasons. The first reason is that when you count down days, you're counting towards a very specific ideal. And that ideal, when it comes to your sexual behavior, is something that is created in your head and placed on a pedestal. What often happens is that a man tells himself something like, you know what, 90 days from now, I am going to have total control over my behavior. I'm no longer going to struggle with PIED, porn-induced erectile dysfunction, and my relationship with my wife is going to be great. I will no longer experience any shame or any guilt. So he counts down every day as he goes through whatever program it is till he gets to day 90. Well, what if he gets to day 90 and he's accomplished some of these things, but he still struggles with PIED? He still doesn't have a great relationship with his wife because he realizes now that it takes two to make that work. And let's say he still carries a little bit of shame and guilt. Well, it's likely he's going to relapse because he put in so much work and used so much willpower and counted on all these days, hoping that there was going to be some big reward at the end. And when you don't experience that, well, it's a letdown. And you already know how you typically deal with letdowns in your life. So that's one of the reasons why we don't encourage counting within our system. Another mindset to change in stage two is the idea that this is an all or nothing situation. So some men come in thinking that they should never slip, not even once, and that if they do so, it's all over. So they end up beating themselves up, they throw in the towel, not understanding how detrimental this behavior is to their reboots. We like to use the phrase progress over perfection as you go through your reboots. It is okay if you slip once in a while. That does not undo the rewiring to your brain. These are just a few of the mindsets that stand in the way of your accepting your behavior. And I understand that it can be challenging to rewire your brain after carrying around these ideas for years, but it is critical if you want to be successful in your reboot or your recovery. Finally, you do have to accept that you can live a new life to progress through stage 2. And a lot of men arrive here feeling exhausted and defeated. I remember what it was like for me. This is probably not the first method you've tried, or maybe it is, but compulsive masturbation and pornography addiction are difficult conditions to live with. And they wear you down, and they wear down the people in your life who are affected by your behavior. And oftentimes, you may believe that you're beyond the point of help when you get here. But I promise you that you can live a new life. You can find freedom and relief from your compulsive sexual behavior. But until you accept that you can live a new life, your false beliefs are going to hold you back. In an upcoming session, I'm going to share a little bit more about how you can start believing more in this lifestyle. Finally, there's the process of overcoming denial. And stage 2, as I mentioned earlier, is where denial begins to creep in. Even after you accept your behavior and the fact that you can overcome it and the fact that you can create a new life, at some point you might feel that this was just some big overreaction to a simple problem. You start wondering whether you made a big deal out of nothing, or you start feeling some shame creeping in and you want to deny that you ever had a problem in the first place. This is important. I know I sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but the last thing I want you to do is quit this program before you get to the next stage. So once you've accepted that you can live a new life, once you've truly accepted that you're dealing with this behavior, and finally, once you've handled that second wave of denial that's going to come up during the second stage, you'll be ready for stage 3. And stage 3 is known as the mid-reboot or the mid-recovery. That's what we're going to be talking about next. I'll see you on the next session.